Not everybody loves Brian Tamaki and his Destiny Church, but hey, when a member of the gay community gives him advice, the question is, should he heed that advice? We'll talk some more about it in a moment. Hello, I'm Mike Bain from Christian Voice New Zealand. Now, Brian Tamaki and his Destiny Church, well, they've been quite controversial, especially with their stance on LGBTQ+ issues. Now, recently, they've been involved in protests against the LGBTQ+ events, which has sparked, a lot of debate. But when it comes to getting advice from the alphabet community, it's important to consider the source and the intent behind it. If the advice is coming from a place of genuine concern and understanding, it might be worth listening to, even if it's challenging. It could provide a different perspective and help bridge gaps between communities. I have to say I found it odd, though, that a gay person, when commenting on One News and the story of how members of the Destiny Church disrupted the Rainbow Parade and then stormed, that was their words, stormed a children's storytelling session by a drag king, suggested that Brian Tamaki should stay in his own lane. I don't support the actions of Destiny Church members, but I do understand their outrage. In the past, Destiny Church members, they've been guilty of unlawful acts and they've subsequently received due justice, but attempting to disrupt a children's story time at a public library, what were they thinking? Really, how is it all going to end? And like many Christian organisations, you just cannot condone the action. But it's important that we express our concerns regarding this matter, especially considering there's $1.2 million funded by the taxpayers in additional funding from ratepayers for the venues for these people. Now, if I were a parent who would voluntarily take my child, in other words, voluntarily take a child to a drag king story time and have men dressed in black man-ups t-shirts and attempt to protest, stop the proceedings, I'd be concerned for their safety and also their well-being. But the audience were just children. Children who know no better because their parents, whose moral reasoning had left them, they chose to take them. Now, I'm left confused, and I admit I'm an adult now of some years' worth of wisdom, complete with grandchildren to keep me on the straight and narrow. I'm confused, though, as to why parents would allow their children to be exposed to the alphabet culture and the possibility of a confrontation. The actions of parents like these who expose their children so willingly to this type of vile entertainment just leaves me both speechless. But, worst of all, not caring, as they should know better. Now, I know some will say Destiny Church members were wrong in their actions on the day, but look at the vitriol towards the church that followed. Our weak-kneed politicians were even involved, with Labour leader Chris Hipkins calling out Brian Tamaki and suggesting the church should lose its tax status, and Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, who claims to be a Christian but has so far yet to show support for anything related to a Christian belief, denounced the church's action by saying they went too far. And when he was questioned about losing its tax exemption, he had very little to say. However, he says, it's not just the politicians who are exhibiting hesitation. As a Christian-based organisation, let us make it clear that we do not condone the actions of Destiny Church, but we here at Christian Voice New Zealand do support the underlying principle and conviction. So let's go back to the comment, stay in your lane, Brian. It's resonated with me, which is why I've given it considerable thought. What exactly is the lane that Destiny Church and Brian Tamaki, as its leader, be in? To me, they were actually doing just that. They were standing against the evil force which is rampant in this culture of this country. Brian Tamaki is the only, and I mean the only church leader in this country to stand against the tide of public opinion and call out those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. I mean, Look at what we as decent New Zealanders are being subjected to each day, starting with the left-leaning sympathetic media towards everything that is right in the eyes of God. A culture that celebrates diversity in sinful activities like homosexuality, abortion, gender diversification, indoctrination, manipulation of the masses. Now, that's the lane true Christians should be in, but they're not, are they? As they're all staying cozied up to the source of their incomes. This really is an uncomfortable lane for many Christians, organisations and churches, and it's the very lane that Destiny Church members are exposing themselves to in order to enact change. Stay in your lane, Brian. Really, what is this culture? This self-entitled culture we live in would only be too happy for Christians and churches to stay in a lane where they provide and pick up the broken pieces of society through aid, support networks, food banks. Who do New Zealanders think operates and funds shelters for the homeless, the downtrodden and the abused? Yeah, that's the lane they want you to take. Now, Destiny Church's Man Up program for empowering men and its Legacy program, which empowers women, are rated as one of the most successful programs in the country. And yet, politicians like Hipkins wants to remove their charitable tax exemptions. Really? I question as to whether Hipkins or even Luxon have any clues about what it is that faith-based organisations, well, the exception is Laura Vale, actually do in providing the glue that holds communities together in this country. If Tamaki has to stay in his lane as suggested by this gay person on television, then why is it that the alphabet community can dictate what it is that my children should learn? Why I'm forced night after night to accept the abomination that homosexuals are normal on my television screen? Every night we see it. And I now think there are more gay people in Coronation Street than we would have classed as normal a few years ago. Stay in your lane, Brian. Well, let me tell you about a couple of lanes that gay people that Jesus spoke about, and if you can read, and I say that because obviously it was important when you were at school, you should learn about the alphabet people instead of the actual alphabet and how it would help you to read. But anyway, but Jesus speaks about a wide road and a narrow road in Matthew 7. There he says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many will enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few will find it. Now, Brian Tamaki and his Destiny Church, they're on the broad, wide road along with the nation, but their direction, their GPS, their Google map, their moral compass is different. It's not centred on themselves like so many of the travellers around them. It's centred on truth. And who is at the centre of that truth? Well, it's the Bible, the Word of God. Now that is where I'd put my trust to guide my direction of travel. Now, Tamaki and Destiny Church, to many, they're about as annoying as orange road cones these days. But annoying as they are, they're there for a purpose. They're there to warn you of some impending danger that lies ahead. So it's crucial for Tamaki and his followers to stay true to their beliefs and values, finding a balance between respecting others and maintaining their principles can be tricky, but not impossible. Hey, what do you think? Should Brian Tamaki consider the advice and stick to his lane, and what lane should he and his Destiny Church be in? Hey, thanks for joining us here at Christian Voice New Zealand as we continue to look at today's culture through the lens of the Bible. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments, and if you want to support us financially, check out our website, Christian Voice New Zealand. Until next time, God bless.